Shipment of weapons are going to be restored to Ukraine, and Russia and Putin has 50 days to get to the negotiating table. What are we talking about? I want to talk about exactly what's going on right now because this is good for thought. Let's roll.
Good for thought.
What up, everybody? What's good to all of my NazareN fam? All the shout outs at the end of the video. This video won't be long. As I said in the opening little statement, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of you are sort of, trying to follow everything that's going on. It seems like lately, a lot of developing stories and they just keep coming. Just a month ago, we had Ukraine strike nuclear bombers in Russia. Then we have Israel attacks Tehran. Tehran retaliates. Then America bombs Iran in the middle of the desert somewhere. And we hear about nuclear weapons and this and that. And then last week, we supposedly hear this recording where our president, our American president, is talking about if Putin and Russia don't calm down, we're gonna bomb the shit out of Moscow. And then and he says, I have all this everything planned, and look, I'll reveal it next week. And then next week comes, which is today, and then there's this whole meeting with the leader of UN in the Oval Office, and all of a sudden it's like, well, Russia has 50 days, or, and basically the or is more sanctions on Russia, with the face of, the sanctions will be in terms of, um, you know, the tariffs for anybody that does anything with Russia, basically, mega economies like China, mega economies like India, Brazil, and the whole BRICS thing. But so I don't really want to focus per se on that, because all of you can go and get your news anywhere else. I want to more focus on what what we are being fooled with and how we are falling again for this circus, and even more importantly, what is going on in Ukraine. How are the actual Ukrainians feeling? How are Russians actually feeling? Because the battlefield right now, or one of the battlefields, major battlefields of the world, is of course Ukraine. And it looks like it will be a battlefield for, God forbid, years to come, as these parasites, they are planning on this. And I said this before, that we are actually coming to the best times that we have had, because all the masks are coming off. It's not easy, but it won't be easy for those that have zero conscience, have zero soul. It's going to be hard for them. And for all of us, for all of you NazareN fam, for all of you people that are actually thinking outside the box, these are the best times. So what does it really come down to? I think we are finally, a lot of us are learning or relearning that it really doesn't matter who the president is. It really doesn't matter what administration. It doesn't really matter if they really got picked or if they didn't get picked, or if they spend $1 billion, and or none of that stuff really matters. What matters is, that there are, forces at hand, bigger cockroaches, bigger rats that are pulling the strings. And it's very simple. We used to think that this is for money or this is for resources. It's no longer even about that. It's basically about the fact that, look, I have a whole bunch of weapons sitting there. I need to use them somewhere. I need to develop some new weapons, and all of these mega corporations, Raytheon and Boeing and all these. Lockheed Martin, all these corporations, they're counting on these weapons to go somewhere. They are counting the profits, and their yearly profits are that of an economy of some of the entire nations in the world. You understand? So of course they have to get rid of old weapons. Plus they need time to develop new ones, because these cycles, that's all they think about is trillions and billions and trillions are spent on all of this. Lives are lost, blood is spilled, and on top of that they're thinking, look, man, this is a good chance for a population cut. It sounds crazy, but it sounds crazy to all of us. The people, that folks that have some conscience left. I remember, I keep remembering the novel that Gogol, wrote, called Dead Souls. And we used to think that he's talking about some paranormal stuff, but what he was writing about is that there are people with a soul, and then there are people without the souls, and that's who he was writing to. And I'm glad that a lot of us are finally seeing, look, masks are coming off. And my objective, in this channel and this whole movement, all of our objectives are that we have to make sure that us as the people, we are communicating, meaning that all the wonderful, great folks that are in America are talking to the wonderful folks that are still in Ukraine, amazing folks that are still in Russia. The Russians are talking to the folks in France and in Ireland, and so on and so forth. We need to make sure we are communicating, and that leads me to the most important point. Well, what is going on in Ukraine? Well, guess what? Ukraine is devastated. Ukrainians are tired. Men are not coming outside. They're staying at home, hiding in the basements. I have a lot of friends like that, family members like that. Cities that were just not so long ago were bustling with life and people walking around, families holding hands, is no more. I'm looking at a video of my city, a population of 70,000 people. It's a decent city in Ukraine, right? Broad daylight, empty streets, man. Beautiful weather outside, empty streets, which for active, Slavic people, for even active European people, Western or Eastern, this is in walkable cities. This is unheard of, but it's actually happening. And on the military side, because I do have friends that are in the armed forces of Ukraine, friends that actually, paid not to get out of the service, but paid, because that's also an option, to stay in the back of the combat line. So basically, they have either their families or sometimes their parents that are abroad. They pay 10, 15,000, and they make sure that they are based there, they are in the armed forces, but they are not on the front line. As a matter of fact, they are far from the front line. So there's a whole market that's going on in Ukraine, with legal weapons that are being sold, with children that are being trafficked, with drugs, with organs, and then they have, like, oh, you either, if you want, you can leave the country, that's 20,000. If you want to, just stay in the back of the combat line, is 10, 15,000. But Ukraine is running out of people. And what we are seeing is that these psychopaths, the same, the same, dynasties and sponsors, and donors, these people, the families that have been around for a couple of hundreds of years, they are the kids of children of those families. They want to again drag this whole thing out until 2045, just like they did in the last century. So now my question is to all you Western Europeans, are you ready to send your children? Because guess what? Russia doesn't want to fight, right? Uh, but if they have to, they will fight until the end. European children are not ready for that fight, and nor should they be ready for that fight. Russian youth, Russian people don't want it either. They are sick and tired of that. You have to understand that Ukraine and Russia and like Belarus, it's its own civilization. If you would look at things globally, there's the English, American English civilization. Then you have the Arabic civilization and the Jewish. This is a Russo-Slavic civilization. So what I'm trying to say is, if Ukraine is hurting, Russia is automatically hurting. If Russia is hurting, vice versa, Ukraine is hurting. It's this one organism, even though that a portion of that organism was highly poisoned, highly bamboozled, that the organism started to eat itself. That's exactly what happened to the Ukrainians. They are destroying themselves. Russians are not running around the streets in Ukraine catching people, putting them on a bus that's taking them, off to a meat grinder. Ukrainians are doing this to Ukrainians. And I'll let that sit for a second, right? While I take a little sip. So I want to remind to anybody that are still, allowing for these psychopaths to even give you an idea. Well, look, we're gonna drag, like Putin down to the negotiating table. These people don't give a shit. They are soulless. All they're doing war for the sake of war, for the sake of population control, for more like toys to be developed, for like this and that. It's progress to them if millions of people lay down in a mass grave. It's progress for them because they think they are technologically, on the weaponry side, they're progressing, man, which is bonkers. But it's our responsibility. So to all you Americans, to all you Europeans, to all you Russians, to all you Ukrainians, hello, my name is NazareN. This is good for thought / prove to me that you're alive / soulevate / on and on and on. And we are asking all of you to please start waking up. We need to claim responsibility. There is no Democrat or Republican. There are no, this party against the globalists. They're all globalists, man. Okay? I'll let that sit. Okay? So, I love all of you. Huge shout out, of course, to the always brilliant Romaniya poet. I'm still trying to really get her for the Prove to Me that You're Alive conversation. Tomorrow we have some great guests that our special co-host David Wodanuk set up. So shout out to my brother. Shout out, of course, to the always amazing Jim Dillinger. Probably one of the best channels on YouTube. Go check that out. Shout out to Melanie. Shout out to Jana. Shout out to all of you that come here and you show love. Shout out to Orwell McLee. Shout out to my boy Tomek. All of you that have been patient. We are here. We're coming. We're like a bulldozer, man. Okay. So go hug your loved ones. Remind them that you appreciate them. Remind yourself that you appreciate yourself. Go hug yourself. Go show yourself some love, man. Okay. And we're gonna be okay, man. So let's stop falling for this foolery. This was good for thought, and I'll see you on the rebound. Okay. Ooh, no.